Hey YouTube, today we're going to be comparing a couple big bore handguns, and these are some of the most powerful handguns in the world that you can purchase today. And what we have in front of us, we have a Desert Eagle 50 caliber 50 AE here on top, and we have a Colt Anaconda 44 Magnum on the bottom. And before we get started, I'm going to show you there's nothing in these guns, and we are clear to make this video. Safety is always a thing that YouTube cares about, and I want to be safe. So what we have here is a Colt Anaconda. This is chambered in 44 Magnum, and I'm going to give you a little bit of history, a brief history on the 44 Magnum. The 44 Magnum came out in 1955. It was introduced by Smith & Wesson in their famous Model 29. And for many years, it was said to be the most powerful handgun in the world. And what these things were used for was you could use them for hunting and different various things. And it originated as a 44 Special, which is a lot milder weapon. And people wanted to make a Magnum cartridge, and Smith & Wesson did so. And a few years after 1955, when Smith & Wesson introduced the 44 Magnum, Ruger came out with the Red Hawk and the Black Hawks, and they introduced their version of the 44 Magnum. Now, Colt, what I have here in front of us is they never got into the 44 Magnum game. They came out with the Colt Python about the same year in 357 Magnum. And one of people's complaint was they never made it in 44 Magnum, the most powerful cartridge on the earth. And around 1990, Colt introduced this Colt Anaconda, and it was really done in a bad time where they were under a strike and the quality was down and stuff, and it really wasn't that big a success because the gun wasn't really that well made. And here recently, in the last few years, Colt's reintroduced some of these revolvers. When they got out of the revolver game, they've reintroduced them, and they came out with this Colt Anaconda in 44 Magnum, and it has the same action as the newer Python, the real smooth action with the smooth trigger pull and all that. Now, this particular one is a 4¼ inch barrel, and it has a capacity of 6 rounds in it. And the one here on top is the Desert Eagle. This is a 50 AE, and this was introduced, the 50 AE was introduced in 1988, and this was said to be the most powerful semi-automatic handgun in the world, and to my knowledge, it still is. And these things surpassed the 44 Magnum when they came out in power and just a completely different ball game. Now, we're going to go into a little bit more into that here in a little bit, but this is a semi-automatic, very large 1911 style kind of handgun with the beaver tail and the single action only action on it, and it holds a capacity of 7 rounds in a box magazine and 1 in chamber, so you can hold 8 rounds. Now, what are the differences in a 44 Magnum and a 50 AE? Well, I'm going to show you here. I have the cartridges here side by side, and this is a 44 Magnum. For many years, from the 1950s till the 1980s, this was said to be the most powerful handgun cartridge in the world, and it was. And it got made very famous by Harry Callahan, Dirty Harry, and the movies made by Clint Eastwood. And he carried a Smith & Wesson Model 29, and he stated many times this is the most powerful handgun in the world, and it was. Now, technology caught up with the 44 Magnum, and things like this have come out. And in 1988, when this was introduced, it is a vastly large difference, if you'll see, in the cartridge size, and the bottom part, it is just a lot bigger. Lot bigger cartridge here, a lot more powder loaded, a lot more velocity. So when you buy a 44 Magnum, you can expect to get about 11 to 1200 feet per second velocity at the muzzle, moving a 230 grain bullet, and that's going to produce between 11 and 1,300 pounds of energy upon impact when the projectile hits its intended target. Now, with the 50 AE, you're going to be moving a 300 grain bullet, which is vastly larger, and you're going to be moving this around, 1,400 to 1,600 feet per second, and about the same, about 1,400 to 1,600 pounds of energy upon impact. So it is quite a bit of difference. Now, in 2003 they came out with the Smith & Wesson 500, which is more powerful than both of these. It's the most powerful handgun in the world right now. It's the reigning leader to my knowledge, and it is made in an X-frame revolver by Smith & Wesson. And I have a couple videos up of the Smith & Wesson 500 comparing it to the Desert Eagle. So the Desert Eagle is the most powerful semi-automatic handgun, and the Smith & Wesson 500 is the most powerful revolver. Now, there are some more, like the 454 Gasol and some of these other oddball rounds that I'm not really familiar with, that I don't own, but these are the ones that I'm very familiar with. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to compare this 50 AE to this 44 Magnum. The 44 Magnum is still a good round. It's still very relevant. People use them for bear protection and stuff like that because it will stop pretty much anything on the earth, and it is super powerful and absolutely not useless. Now, these companies that's come out with these bigger stuff here, I mean, it is really a great idea. But, I mean, is it really necessary? Well, I mean, if you want to have a semi-automatic weapon with this type of rim here to feed through it, this is the way you need to go. But in a revolver, it doesn't matter. And they're 100% reliable in revolvers. And the thing about the 44 Magnum is it will hold 6 rounds. And those large X-frame revolvers with the Smith & Wesson 500 only holds 5. Well, these things have beat them all. They'll hold a total of 8 rounds in a semi-automatic situation. So let's do a little bit of comparison side by side and show you this. Now, this Anaconda is a lot beefier than a Smith & Wesson 29 or 629. And I have comparison videos to show you this. When they redesigned this gun, this cylinder is absolutely behemoth size. It's absolutely huge, and I think they could actually put a larger caliber in it if they ever wanted to. I don't know if they're going to, but I think they could. And this has a sleek design of like a Colt Python with the full underlug and that vendor rib on top. And what you essentially have is a 44 Magnum Colt Python, which is what everybody wanted when they came out with the Colt Python in 1955. So this is an absolutely magnificent weapon. They make these in 4 1/4 inch, 6 inch, and 8 inch now. And I chose to go with this little 4 1/4 inch one just because I think it's the looks is great, and I don't want to have extremely long barrel. I'm not going to be carrying the thing around or anything. This is just the ones that I think look the best. Now, they come with rubber grips, but I put these laminate wood grips on them, and they have finger grooves in them. They have texturing on them, and it helps tame some of the recoil. Does this thing have recoil? Yes, it does, folks. It has a little bit less recoil than the Smith & Wesson Model 29 because it's sheer weight that it has to it. It's just very big and bulky, and it helps tame some of that recoil down. But the 44 Magnum is absolutely still one of the most powerful handguns in the world and not to be taken very lightly at all. Now, with the Desert Eagle, it's going to be more powerful than the Smith & Wesson, and the way this thing's designed is very unique. So when you open this up, you'll notice it has a actual rifle-looking bolt, and it appears to look just like a AR-15 bolt, and it rotates and goes into these locking lugs here in the barrel, and it's gas operated, which is very odd for a handgun. And what that does is that's what cycles the gun, and between that gas operated system, this compensator built into the barrel here on it, and the sheer weight of this thing is actually very controllable with Desert Eagle. Now, a lot of people have mentioned that they've had problems with these things cycling, and I haven't had any problems with them, but most of the problems that you're going to have with a semi-automatic gun is the magazines. You need to always use factory magazines when you use a semi-automatic weapon because it was designed for that magazine and it's going to work with that magazine. I haven't personally had any problems with it, but I have heard that there are problems out there. This gun was designed in Israel, and it's made its way back to the United States back and forth many times. And right now, it's on Magnum Research, is owned by Car Arms, and they're built 100% in the United States. You can get these things customized in any different kind of finishes. You can get alloy frames. This one happens to be a stainless steel frame. You can get them in a variety of different colors, tiger stripes, gold plated, whatever have you. And this is a very iconic gun. If you look at this profile here on the front, that's what everybody knows from all the movies that these things have been in. They've been in a ton of video games and stuff like that. Very awesome gun, just a very powerful semi-automatic weapon that if you want the most powerful thing in the world and a semi-automatic weapon, this is the way you might want to go. With the 44 Magnum, if you want quality and you want to still stick with 44 Magnum, I recommend this Colt Anaconda just because of the quality and craftsmanship that goes into these things. Colt has really stepped up their game when they came up with these new revolvers. The action on these things are just so smooth. The lockup on them is just bank vault tight like they've always been, and just a great revolver. Plus you have 6 rounds in it. Now that's a little bit of a disadvantage over the Desert Eagle, is you're going to have a little, you're going to have a couple less rounds in them, but how many rounds do you really need when you're shooting one of these big bore type handguns? But these guns are mainly for people that, hike in the woods where they have large game that could be a threat to you or stuff, or basically a range toy. One of the things just you buy because you can say you have it, and pretty much that's why I have these things. Where I live, they don't have grizzly bears going around or anything like that, so I don't feel the need to carry such a large weapon to protect myself. But I wanted to tell you a little bit of the history and show you the side-by-sides of the 50 AE cartridge versus the 44 Magnum cartridge, and show you a couple examples I've used here. The Colt Anaconda people will always recognize because of this awesome design with this vented rib on top. It looks like a very large Colt Python, and this Desert Eagle 50 caliber. You'll know them from all the video games and everything. If you have any questions on either one of these, or any of the questions on the ammo or types of ammo or anything, the performance on them, feel free to reach out. I know a little bit about them. I'm not a complete expert on them, but I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. And thank you very much for watching my video today. And you folks have a great day.